Hi guys, I'm Joe Klemczewski, founder of The Diet Doc, here with Dr. Kori Propst. And we're going to talk about the 5 gears you need to engage for energetic goal pursuit with your clients. So we're in the fitness entrepreneurship category, Kori, and we're going to be going through these 5 steps. We're calling them gears because you're going to be progressing, moving faster with more intention toward these different avenues where you can tap into exactly what your clients need to give them the best outcome. So, Kori, we're going to get in first gear. We're going to point the car down the right road. Wheels are turning and we're in motion.
First gear, Joe. What kind of car are you driving? What kind of car are you driving?
You know, I did see that it's either Ferrari or Lamborghini. I think it might be Ferrari. Just came out with an SUV. So now soccer moms can drive Ferraris. It's not just a $1 million racing car. So maybe we start there. You're going to be in a Ferrari SUV?
Okay.
Or
I can do that. I had like Formula One cars in my head because I was just watching Formula One. But yes, I mean, I think all of us want to, as coaches, get our clients into the best starting position possible and to really be able to support them as effectively as possible on the road, right? We're kind of like the people in the
fast and powerful.
We're like driver's ed in the passenger seat, guiding them along the way. Wait, stop! Use your blinker, things like that. So first gear is just, like you said, getting in the car, turning on the engine, making sure that, you know, if it's dark, the lights are on, the seat's in the right position, all the mirrors are adjusted appropriately, and you know where you're planning to go, right? You've kind of set a course, you have a destination, you've plugged everything into your navigation system, if that's what you're using. So, and, you know, as it relates to goal pursuit, we've really helped our clients assess the foundation of what this means for them. Why are they choosing to do this? How come it's important to them? How is it attached to what's most meaningful to them? Who else is going to be affected by what they're choosing to involve themselves in? What are their ultimate wishes? And this, as coaches, we can get as complex as we want to, but I would say, you know, we're not going to start driving the car in third gear. It's not going to work out very well. And then especially if it's a manual, right? We need to have ground level foundational understanding of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and where we're heading. So I could talk a whole bunch about that. Do you have any questions so far, Joe, on
Well, what I do want to specify, or at least clarify, is when you say the word goal pursuit, the phrase goal pursuit, I know we talk a lot in those kind of terms on our podcast. And I don't want it to get too cliche or mundane as people just let those kind of words flow over their brain and never really catch on to what that means. So in goal pursuit, you're talking about anything that you've got an intentional mindset that this is something new, something I need or want, and I have to put some time and energy toward this because it's not just a passive little goal that I hope happens. This is something that you have determination to accomplish. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Behaving in a very targeted, determined, deliberate, conscious manner to move forward towards a target, intention.
So if I'm a coach, nutrition coach, personal trainer, life coach, people are coming to me, they've probably got some pretty darn big goals, and we need to take them that seriously. That was my point to that was this is not just kind of tucking this away and this is part of my intake evaluation or this is how I get things going and it's just very cookie cutter. Every single person coming to you has a different life, different needs, different wants.
Oh, yeah.
And that is the most serious thing I think we can consider as coaches.
Well, when I receive an inquiry from anyone asking about services, one of the first things, because not everyone is forthcoming with that information initially. It's like, tell me what you offer. I'm thinking, well, that depends. What do you need? What's important to you? What are you looking for? What are your struggles? What are the reasons that you're contacting me in the first place? Please tell me about yourself. What's your history? What's motivated you to reach out to me in the first place? So not only is that necessary information so that you're going to be able to guide the client most effectively, but it's important to start the relationship out on that strong of a foundation of support and caring and empathy and understanding, to develop trust and a sense of safety for this client that you're interested and you're going to be taking care of them. And that, like you said, Joe, they are a unique individual who has very unique needs that you need to be aware of. And not every client is going to like spill everything. And so you need to develop some competencies as a coach in terms of how and what questions you're going to ask in order to gather that information. And it's a process. So.
And that's what people are interested in, Kori, because we coach coaches through the National Academy of Metabolic Science. We coach coaches through the Diet Doc. We coach, clinicians, nutrition consultants around the world. And so, people listening and watching right now are saying, okay, this is going to be great because Dr. Kori Propst, health psychologist, is going to tell me about her process. And that's what people really want to hear, especially me as I'm sitting here with you and, I'm taking mental notes, because I know through your eyes, through your brain, as you're doing this intake process and you're gathering information from this prospective person who has all these dreams and goals, and they're going to work with the famous Dr. Kori Propst. So I want to know exactly what you're thinking that might be totally automatic for you, but we sitting at your feet have to know exactly how that happens in your mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, so something that might make this a little bit easier to remember, and I did not, the famous Dr. Kori Propst, I did not create this process, but it's called the WOOP process.
WOOP.
WOOP. Okay. WOOP. There it is. Yes. Now you will never forget it, folks. So W stands for wishes. We get really clear about what we wish to have happen. Okay. What do we really want? What do we desire? And this isn't just whims. These are things that are incredibly meaningful to us. Things that we may have put on the back burner over and over and over and over again. Like, have your client take a look at their bookshelves. What are they reading all the time? What are they gathering information about? What is always in the back of their minds? So wishes are first. And then outcomes. What are the ideal outcomes if we were to pursue and move forward with and take action deliberately toward these wishes? What would change in their lives? I ask my new clients this question: what's going to change? What do you anticipate is going to shift? Not just with you personally, but how might things change professionally for you? How might things change, within your family environment at home? How might things change at work? Because as any good coach knows, when someone is trying to change a behavior, it doesn't happen in a vacuum. Every single environment and relationship that this person is involved in is also going to morph and shift in some way also. The second O stands for obstacles. So once we've gotten really, really clear and reflected upon what the ideal outcomes would be if we were actually going to pursue this, then what are the potential barriers that we might run up against, right? So what could potentially go wrong? And this is a really important one because as we go through this exercise and we're asking ourselves, what might I run into that could be pretty darn difficult to overcome? This is when we can get into weighing the pros and cons of whether we actually want to pursue that goal. So a client may come to you saying, I want to lose 100 pounds. But then once we go through this exercise, it may not even be about losing the weight anymore. It may be about getting off a certain medication, because that's what can be done immediately. We're going to see some really quick rewards, and a sense of competency developing. Maybe it's, let's just get in 5 minutes of exercise a day. Let's not change a thing about your food. But as we go through this exercise, the client gets, and you get as a coach, a really good sense of what's going to be feasible for this person based on everything that's going on in their lives, their other responsibilities. So these are other things to really get a good handle on. How is their time divided? If you look at their lives as a pie, how are the slices divided? And are there any slices that can be replaced with something else? Okay. It's like one of those assorted cheesecakes. I like those assorted, because I like variety. But sometimes there's a flavor in there that I'm not real fond of, and so I want to kind of slide in another flavor. But so that's the second O. And then the P is to plan. So if this client has really decided, and sometimes it can be hard for them to admit, like, I came to you with this goal of 100 pounds. Everything that we've talked about, I'm not so sure that, and you'll see it in their body language, you'll hear it in their voice, and a skilled coach will be able to say, is this something you really want to target right now? I hear you saying this, but everything else that you're saying is indicating this. Help me understand that. And so you guys get to collaborate together, and you can negotiate with the client about what is actually going to be feasible to target. Because in the back of your mind, and you can share this with the client too, you're thinking, I want you to experience some immediate success. Right now, your confidence is in the toilet. Okay? We want to slowly build that up so you can feel like you can continue moving forward. If you tell me that your goal is to run a half marathon and you can't even run a mile right now, that's not going to work. So you go through these steps to then set an initial plan. Okay? So the WOOP process is a really good way to do that. And I wish I could remember the name of the researcher that came up with that process. We could put it in the show notes because it's easy to find. But so that's first gear, Joe. Any questions on that so far?
Well, it reminds me a lot in medicine and allied health. We all learned the SOAP note acronym, where it's subjective, objective, which is where you're gathering information, assessment, and then plan. But what you're describing with the WOOP is, that's just kind of weird to say, by the way.
Never said it before, have you, until now?
I don't think I've ever said it before, ever, at least not with excitement. But it's more interactive, and it kind of smacks of motivational interviewing, because you're going through this process of what are your wishes, and then what are the outcomes you really want to achieve, and then let's work together through these obstacles, and then we'll create that plan together.
Yes.
I like how that flows much more sequentially, conversationally with a client, and it's not just your read of somebody else's process. You're engaging in their process.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest key. And it really leads into second gear. Okay. Which is the first basic psychological need. And we've addressed on this podcast all three and why they are so important in terms of an energetic, vital, motivated process throughout the progression of a goal pursuit. So these three needs really serve as the foundation for the goal pursuit itself. And as a coach, you want to know these inside and out. It doesn't matter, where where a client grew up, where they came from, how they were raised. If they're a human being, they have these 3 basic psychological needs as underpinnings of their sort of reason for moving forward in life. And if they are supported, okay, that person is going to feel a high level of energy. If they're thwarted or undermined in some way, that's when you're going to see your clients potentially engage in behaviors that are sabotaging of what's aligned with that, the pursuit they're engaged in. So when you say this is like a really collaborative process and you're getting the client involved and they're sharing with you what they have in those interactions is a sense of choice. And that's what autonomy is. Okay, the first basic psychological need. It's having a sense of volition, right? And it's the need to experience our behavior as it being freely chosen by me. No one is forcing this upon me. As a coach, you're giving your client the ability, the capacity, and the space to say, you know what, this is what's really important to me. This is what I want to work towards achieving. Instead of you being the person to say, this is really the direction I think that you need to go in. Based on all of my years of experience, this isn't going to work, but this really will for you. There may be a time and a place to share your opinions and your thoughts and give your client feedback like that, but you can do it in the spirit of them having a say. Okay. So with that autonomy too, some of the supportive behaviors that coaches can exhibit and demonstrate towards their clients that really helps to foster the autonomy is to acknowledge, and we've talked about this, really acknowledge the client's thoughts, what they're sharing with you, and acknowledge the client's feelings. They may not explicitly say, I'm feeling this, or I'm having an experience of this, but you're going to be able to sort of read from their facial expressions and their body language and their tone of voice what they may be experiencing. And I'll say this, that, as a previous counselor and therapist, I teach our coaches this too. Don't ever assume what a client is feeling, or maybe experiencing emotionally, but check in with them. I get the sense that there may be some trepidation here for you. Am I understanding that? Like, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Help me understand what's happening here. And then they have the opportunity to share with you what is actually going on, or choose not to. So it always comes back to choice. But another one is an exploration of their values. And we mentioned this in the beginning. What's really important to you here, because this is going to be the basis for any actions that they're going to take. Any action or behavior taken on their part, and this can go for you as a coach too, the way that you coach, any actions that you take as part of your coaching process, ideally will be grounded in your values. What's important to you? What's meaningful to you? How do you want to show up in the world and in this relationship with your client? And you want to foster the same thing with your client. How are we doing here? Is this all making sense?
Yeah, I love that you segued right into what second gear would be, which is the first principle of psychological needs, autonomy. Mm-hmm. But I'm kind of stuck. I'm already thinking about, as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to go revamp my own intake process. Mm. I've had 3 or 4 inquiries in the last 2 days from 4 different countries, clients all over. Mm-hmm. And I do tend to be very conversational. Right. I don't just automatically pour a ton of intake forms on them. I start asking them questions, tell me about this, tell me about that. And we have this pretty long back and forth before I ever even get to that point. Yeah. But now I actually want to put that acronym WOOP down just to remind me. I'll ask questions in different forms, but I really don't think I have tried to get that kind of specific information right off the bat, at least not organizing it that way. So if I could summarize gear 1, it's it's just to understand that it is that conversational. It's understanding their process where we're looking at what their true wishes are underneath even the goal. Just what are your wishes? What are the outcomes you hope to see? And I think as a good coach, you can connect those two things and start to see what really does motivate them. And then what was the A? Or the other O, I'm sorry.
Wish,
the other
outcome,
O is
obstacles.
Obstacles. So yeah, I think that's important and very often not done is to ask them what their biggest obstacles are. Don't just assume but let them articulate exactly what happens in their life that might be a challenge. And then, of course, then you can create that plan together, the last part of the acronym.
My gosh, Joe, the obstacles piece is, I don't know how anyone can coach without going through that piece with a client, because these are the things that they're going to run up against as they are going through their pursuit process. And so it is going to help them to articulate those things beforehand so that they can be not like guarded and super cautious, but to know that realistically, these potential barriers exist within them. And that may be, old beliefs that really limit them in some way, thought processes. Maybe they think in really black and white extreme terms, or they make assumptions really easily, or they're super reactive and impulsive instead of like slowing down and pausing and being more thoughtful and careful. So those are possible internal barriers. But then environmental potential barriers too. So maybe there are certain people in their environment or within their family that just kind of push their buttons in some way, or say certain things that gets under their skin. And then, they just they'll throw in the towel really easily, or just certain environments. I have a couple people that I'm talking with right now who they've said, I'm a very busy person and I work 14 hours a day. So are you going to plan my meals for me? And so we're getting to their barriers, right? Really long work hours. And so as we're talking through these things, I'm getting a sense for what she might have difficulty with and how I can begin supporting her, not right now, but also in the future, because we are both aware now that that's going to come up. And so I'm already offering some level of solutions for how we're going to navigate those barriers together. So to review, first gear is just the foundational elements of this goal. What do I want to pursue? Why am I going to pursue this? How come it's important to me? Then, and part of that is the whole WOOP process. We're getting to wishes, we're getting to outcomes of those wishes, obstacles, and then we're planning. Second gear is the basic psychological need of autonomy, which is the sense of choice. So next time, in our next session, I call it a session because I do coaching sessions. We're
next
going to cover
episode.
Gears in our next episode, guys. Yeah, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think it was amazing. And so we'll, of course, review some of this. You guys don't have to get all of this down right now. We will have great show notes for you. But we look forward to the next round, Kori, in our session upcoming in fitness entrepreneurship. We might end up flipping back and forth and do some more macro mastery or even coaching clinic work. But at least in our next episode of Fitness Entrepreneurship, we will be right back here going through the rest of those gears for energetic goal pursuit. So, Kori, thank you very much. And you guys listening and watching, we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.